Hello, everyone, and welcome to Unstoppable Conversations, where we intend to create conversational adventures that inspire, re energize, and impact both our lives and your lives positively. Joining me today is my good friend, Caroline Newby.
Hello.
Hi,
Hello.
Caroline. Thank you for joining me.
You're so welcome. You're very welcome.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah.
For a long, long time, actually.
Yeah. It's been in the books. It's been penciled in.
So, like I told you before the show, I'm not going to introduce you, which is standard practice for a podcast. So
Yes.
you're going to introduce yourself, and I just have one question that you need to answer in your introduction. So I'm going to give you some guideline.
Okay.
And the question is,
Yeah.
who are you?
Who am I?
Yeah, it's a simple question, but it's also very complex.
Mm-hmm.
You'll notice that on the screen there is a timer. This bar is a timer.
Okay.
So, like you suspected, there is a 45-second timer for this answer. Because I thought it's challenging enough answering the question, who are you? But if I had a time limit, it's even more challenging.
Who knows what comes out? Yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I'll give you just a few seconds to think about it and let me know when you're ready.
Okie doke. Why not? Let's
Sure.
go for
Okay.
it. Yeah. Let's go for it.
All right, I think it started.
Okay, so as Andre already mentioned, my name is Caroline. I am just turned 28 years old. And we work together.
Yeah.
So we're both teachers, and we've been in Beijing since April, so it's a relatively new chapter. But something we're really, really enjoying. And what else to say, really? From England. The north of England, which is important if you are from there. And that's about it, really. Yeah.
Cool.
I'm sure more will come out.
Yeah, well, I mean, the picture that you send me is with you, and I don't know exactly who that is.
It's my friend's dog.
It's your friend, because I know you have a Dutch hound.
We do, yeah.
Do you know
that? Is Ada.
Ada.
Yeah, Ada. My friend's firstborn.
So I gotta ask, did you kidnap her?
Just for the day. We met up in London for drinks, actually, and Ada always makes an appearance. She regularly frequents London on the tube.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
That's
she goes
cool.
to work with her dad, and she's known in the friend group. She's a regular girl about town, is Ada.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
She's very cute.
That sounds similar to your dog Juno, because you've told me that Juno is just everybody's free game at the bar, basically.
Yeah, she's everybody's dog.
Yeah.
She doesn't know a stranger, basically, which is great, but she's easy pickings if somebody did decide.
If the ice cream truck rolls up. Yeah.
So yeah, but she's a social being like that, which is where we're happy where she is. Like she's.
But on the other hand, because everybody knows her and loves her, if somebody random takes her, there's going to be a whole mob of people that's going to come after that.
It's very true. This is the thing. Everyone says, "Oh, do you let her off the lead and just let people come in?" But so many people are regulars in the pub who know her, and if they saw somebody else, just it wouldn't go unnoticed. Yeah, she's.
I'm thinking now of Alicia's dog napping her dog. That's probably not our story to tell, though.
No,
I'll wait for Alicia.
Another podcast.
Yes, it is. I'll wait for Alicia to come on.
Yeah, clarify the details of that.
Yeah. So we're both expats, like you mentioned.
We are.
You're from the UK, I'm from South Africa. How are you finding? I mean, we interact with each other daily because we work together, but overall, if you had to sum up your, what's it now, like 9 months, 8 months?
Yeah, nine.
How would you sum up life as an expat in Beijing specifically? It can be as truthful as you want. This is a true.
I would say the first few months are definitely a whirlwind. You feel like you are never further from home the first couple of months because nothing is alike. And you learn to develop like in some good ways, absolutely. Yeah. But because it's alien to you, that's exactly how it feels for the first 2 months.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I feel like from the 2 months mark is just survival mode. Like, okay, I am learning things on my feet here. Things are really interesting, but also like, I don't know, confrontingly different. But then the 6 months, I guess, after that, you kind of really you've gotten over the initial hurdles, I would say the immediate day-to-day hurdles, and you're in the swing of it. It's very different. It's incomparable to where I'm from, certainly, but I'd say the differences are not necessarily the negatives. There are negatives, like there is to anywhere that you live. Nothing is perfect, but the positives for me is definitely the safety element. Especially as a woman, I don't feel any kind of way going anywhere at night, early hours of the morning, wherever, whether it's rural or major in the city. Like, that element is something that actually I think very quickly has been taken for granted. Like, it's just...
I agree with you on that.
Yeah, very, very quick, which is a lovely, lovely position to be in. But I think it's reminding myself that, like, the reality actually is not that for a lot of places.
You gotta keep like Thug Caroline in the back there,
ready to
just
go.
in case.
Ready to go.
Yeah.
So that element has certainly been a really lovely addition to the day to day. And obviously,
I'm gonna take notes, by the way.
Yeah, go for it.
Don't copy my works.
The other element is obviously like the cost of things. Things are generally cheaper. You get a lot more for your money, either in experiences, for food, going out with friends. These sort of things don't cost you as much, so therefore you think less about going and doing those things. And I'm glad about that, because I would rather have, obviously, savings, but be experience rich. I don't want to miss out on something because of money. And we all have to make cut-off points, but it felt in England, certainly the cut-off points came at like being able to go out for a coffee maybe like a third time in a month, and you're like, well, I probably shouldn't. And in your 20s, I think there's sort of things like that you absolutely should just be able to do. And
we're very sheltered from the price of things, aren't we? When we went back home as well, like the specials would be what the price was a few years ago when we were back home. You'd get like 2 pies now. They'd have a special. Oh, get 2 pies for this price. But yeah, just things got outrageously expensive.
Yeah.
And I know that's true for the UK as well.
Absolutely. That's the huge difference. We feel like we're able to thrive with the money and the opportunity it gives us, rather than a survival mode of, oh, let's not do that. Whereas we're finding, it used to always be like, oh, let's not do that, and have to find a reason to do it, whereas having to find a reason not to do things now, because money's not the no. The want is not, obviously, never the no at this age. And I just think, like, we feel like we're living life as anybody should, but especially 20-year-olds that have lost like 2 to 3 years from COVID. I feel like the prime, like, explorative years of your life. Like, your 20s are to make or break, make a mistake, learn from it, do whatever you need to do. But I feel like they're the core years of that development, definitely.
I've thought about that as well a lot. Young and I have spoken about that as well.
Yeah.
It's weird because it didn't just happen to me and you, right? It happened to everybody. But certain age groups are just more vulnerable during like times of crisis, like global crises. There's no way around it. There's nothing you can do to change it. It happened. We had to experience that. We went through it. Yeah. But you did lose something.
Yeah, definitely.
Tangible and intangible.
Yeah.
For sure.
No, 100%. And I asked my mum, would you rather, she was in her 50s when COVID hit, and I said, would you rather lose like 2 or 3 years of your 50s or 2 or 3 years of your 20s? And she was like, it's just not a question. Like, I every time would pick the 50s. Yeah. She was like, because the 20s were just doing things because you could. And when you don't even have the option to do that, she was like, it's just,
Because we just want to be free, right?
Yeah.
We just got out of school and university. We just want to be free.
Yeah, you've got all of your credentials to actually start and build momentum in your 20s, certainly. And it felt like every time we tried to build momentum, like the rungs? What is it in a ladder?
Yeah, rungs.
They fell through, basically, and you were like, right, okay.
Like a new wall you had to climb over.
Yeah, it just felt like all the things that you tried to build just stop still. And
It's true, because we would try to just go to the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't know that the community or the building was in lockdown. I don't want to get too much into the details, just in case they're watching, you know. But yeah, you know what I mean. So let me ask you this interesting question. Why would you tell somebody not to become an expat and go to another country and experience? Like, what would be the reason for them not to do it?
I mean, I'm sure expat experiences change in any country.
Yeah.
But purely from Beijing, I can't speak for the rest of China. It's a pretty big old place.
True.
But I'd say the element of you are reminded repeatedly that you are different, whether that is from a language perspective, whether that's from obviously your immediate how you look, you know, that visual perspective, you immediately are not Chinese.
That's true.
And then on top of that, just the cultural element, like even if they aren't aware, I say they as if it's like even if people that are native to China aren't aware of your cultural element, you are aware that theirs is different to yours. And like I'd say that element definitely at times can be like quite ostracizing. So I would say you have to be open to the culture, but if you're not, or if you find a lot of like comfort in your own culture and the sort of algorithms of that culture, then come into a place where is like unlike no other. Like it's gonna shock you. It's gonna be a shock.
There is no way to describe it to people unless they're here. There's just no way.
No, and I'd say you get used to certain stuff. You become immune to certain stuff, like being stared at. Initially, the first couple of weeks, I found that actually quite difficult. I was like, stop looking at me. Like, it obviously never said it, but I would look back at people and frown and be like...
Even if you did, they might not understand.
No, and I know...
It might make them stare more.
Yeah, and I know it's curiosity. I know it's... there's a different perception to staring in multiple different cultures and looking at people. But I'd say that element initially, I felt like, oh gosh, you know, I don't belong here. I know I don't belong here, and they know I don't belong here. So that is intimidating. I'd say intimidating is probably the underpinning word. Like you feel intimidated, whether it's not directly, it's indirectly, but it's the result's the same, right? Like, and then the other element is potentially, just being far away from family. Day to day, you're at work. That is no real difference in that because everybody is guilty of working and being in that cycle. But for major milestones. Gosh, combining two words.
Major scary.
Major milestones, major like key events in friends and family's life. You feel never like further from home when that happens. And close friends of ours are gonna literally imminently have a baby. And overjoyed. But I know that when the baby comes, not to make them feel bad, they shouldn't, but I know I will never feel further from home when I don't get to meet the baby until it's, you know, a few months old. And that's only because we're lucky enough to be able to come home at that time. But yeah, those two, there's probably several, but there definitely is several, but those two major ones.
Yeah, it's paradoxical in a way because you come here for the opportunity and to experience new things, and you do, but then you justify being able to see your family. You're like, oh yeah, but I can see you because I'm making money now, or I'm able to afford plane tickets. But if you hadn't left,
yes,
you would be able to see them more. It's definitely a sacrifice in a lot of senses.
100%.
Because, and on your point on the culture shock and people staring, you have to be very comfortable with yourself. I feel in order to break through that, because if you're not, it's just going to keep bothering you.
Absolutely.
You'll keep creating stories of why are these people staring? Well, what's wrong with me? Is there something on my face?
Yeah, the paranoia for sure.
Yeah, you need to be a strong-minded person to get through it.
Yeah, I mean, the leg initially, like I was like, oh wow, people are staring all over again. But actually it's helped because I'm just like, I just don't care anymore. Yeah, they're not staring at my face, but I also just don't care anymore. Like, people are going to stare regardless, and like, I may as well just do what I'm doing. Yeah. Like, almost the worse it is, the more immune you become quicker. Like,
yeah, that's true.
And nobody who is staring is like, I'm looking at this person to ruin their day. Like, nobody who has stared gives it a second thought immediately after they've stared at somebody. Mm. So if you allow it to, like, you're the only one carrying the weight of like what you might think that person has thought.
That's true. That's true. You're basically creating what you think they're thinking.
Because you're never going to know unless they say something to you. And even then, my Chinese is not good. So I'm not going to really, I'm not going to really know. So
that's true.
That, you know, I think has helped in that element, definitely, of like, we all sometimes think in public in England or wherever you're from, like, oh, you look at someone like, they're looking at me, or what I'm thinking maybe, and everybody has moments of like paranoia. But because it happens so regularly, you can't be bothered to think about what they may or may not think. So
there's no time.
Positives and negatives, I guess.
Yeah, there's a balance. There's a balance
overcome.
To it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned before our episode that you described yourself in 5 words. Mm-hmm. Do you remember those 5 words? No looking again at my notes, please. Because
I remember a few, I think.
Sure.
Do you want me to reel off?
Yeah.
Okay. I think mischievous was one.
She says with a smile.
Overthinker was another. But there was a hyphen, so is that 1 word or 2?
I don't know. It's 1.5.
Was empathetic one?
Yes.
Hey. Friendly?
Yeah.
I've got 1 left.
Starts with an L.
Ooh. I don't know if that's made it harder or not.
It's loyal.
Hey!
Loyal,
yeah. Okay, yeah.
So, why? Why those words? What is it about them, or which one do you feel describes you more accurately?
I actually think they all kind of cover enough, because I don't think I'm any one thing very strong. I think some of them are stronger elements of me certainly than others, but I feel like they balance each other out. Like, I think I am friendly. If somebody strikes a conversation with me, I will chat.
I mean, you stumbled into our house.
This is true.
Here we are.
This is true.
Yeah.
And I think even on a faceless level, I'm happy to entertain a conversation with most people. Mischievous is definitely, obviously, I just enjoy even just being humorous or being cheeky or being, I don't know, I think it lightens up even serious conversations, which I'm not aiming to do all the time. I think there's times for serious conversations, but I just think we all go through life sometimes far too serious, and a little bit of lightheartedness is needed. And it naturally happens. I don't even try sometimes. Just naturally gravitate towards a little bit of mischief.
Yeah. It probably comes from your dad, because your dad strikes me as a funny guy.
He is.
I've never met him, but
yeah. I'd say in the Newby house in general, there's a
healthy mischief.
Yeah, there's healthy mischief there. Yeah.
We'll call it that too.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a characteristic. And then overthinker.
Yeah, that's
goes without saying. Really.
I would have described you.
Yeah.
As an overthinker.
Overthinker, for good or for bad. Sometimes, it's definitely a skill you have to master. You'll always be an overthinker, but it's how you kind of break the circuit, right? And
so which kind of thoughts get the better of you? You know, what's that cycle that doesn't stop?
So, if I feel I may have offended somebody or upset anybody, I'd say they're more critical. Like, different situations, I can quickly break the circuit and be like, oh, I'm really thinking too much about this. It really doesn't matter. But if I have potentially upset somebody or potentially like kind of got it wrong, I overthink a situation and analyse like, well, if they are mad, how can I remedy that? And if I did say this and it wasn't interpreted this way, like, what way could we get back to, an equilibrium? And I am much better, like I said, at it's just a practice of just being like, okay, you are really overthinking this. And even then sometimes you'll overthinking, and then you're like, wow, right, okay, I need to put some music on and play some,
it's
play
like
some
Marvel
PS5.
movies kind of
Yeah.
multiverse things.
But
so what gets you out of overthinking?
distraction is a big one. Like completely. Sometimes the best is to move. Right now, it's not great. To literally move from a space, certainly. But like distraction, like putting on music, putting on something that's more immersive. Because sometimes even like talking through it, which does work sometimes with somebody else, like with Nick or with a friend or mum and dad, which does help, but also it can hinder if that is a continual conversation, if that makes sense, because you're just playing out verbally what's going on in here.
Yeah. So the other person needs to be skilled in some way to help you.
Yeah.
To stop the cycle.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm much better, but it's like sometimes it's comes from a place of stress, so you just need to offload what the immediate blah, is, and then you can be like, right, cool, it's gone. But you get a sense sometimes, like you're like, it's like it's got momentum. This one, so it's stopping it in the water, and distraction I think is the biggest one for me. It works.
So what? Because a lot of people. Most people think negatively about overthinking. People describe it as a negative trait. What would you say is an advantage to overthinking? Is there even one?
I think there definitely is. I think overthinkers will perceive it as negative equally, but if I do think it allows me to be reflective on situations. I think some people stumble through life and they give no reflection to how they may or may not have made somebody feel, or how even just small observations through the day. And I just think the overthinking at least allows you to be reflective about what you've experienced or said or done in a day or a week or whatever it may be. But I think it ties into the empathy part. It allows me to be empathetic because as a part of me, a lot of the overthinking is underpinned from caring or worrying about how other people think, feel, how they seem. So the positive is that at least I'm looking internally for an answer rather than seeking answers externally, or not seeking them at all. Like I think too many people don't even try and understand.
It breezes past them.
Which I'd love to experience a few times,
Ignorance is bliss.
And I'm sure I have been ignorant, we all have, but the reflectiveness I think is never ever a bad skill, but there's a line with everything, and you get better at regulating like that part of you that's like, okay, that's enough. That's enough.
One of the things I've been reflecting on recently is how there's always a positive intention behind everything that you do, every action that people take, and while we all make mistakes, it's not because we don't have good intentions. Some intentions are kind of deeper than others, and people are not as aware of them. But for you, it seems like overthinking definitely has a great intention in that you care and that you want to be empathetic. It's coming from a good place.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the overthinkers are the only bearers of the thoughts that they have. It's not.
Yeah.
If we're in a situation where maybe I even said something to offend you, it wasn't even the wrong way around, and I'm not an overthinker. It's gonna affect you more than it affects me, even though I'm the one who is kind of acting in not the best way.
Yeah, definitely. But I think when I see things in a similar light of like, and I didn't used to, but I've got better at with, like, very few people act with malicious intent. And if they do, I'm kind of like, I feel sorry for you. Like, if you want to stumble through life being that way, then, you do you. Most people either have good intentions or have zero intentions, which either way is not deliberate. Does that make sense?
Or their intentions are so deeply buried. I think it's just been conditioned out of their awareness.
Yes. And I think I try and like take things with a pinch of salt. Obviously things slip through, but generally I try and think like, I don't think that was their intention, and therefore if it's not their intention, like I really try and reverse situations in my head and be like, if I didn't intend to offend somebody like that and they were really offended, obviously I would feel bad. However, if I wasn't aware of that, like that person needs to kind of see the context of the person that I am. Okay, how many interactions have I had with that person that have never been negative or never been intentionally mean or hurtful? And obviously this is just something that's unintentionally like not come out right.
Yeah.
And obviously everybody gets the feelings hurt at some point, but like maybe just growing up and your rationale becomes better maybe. But
more common sense in a way. You've built up a database of what's logical and what's not, and you can more easily like draw from that basically to know whether someone's really being mean or it's just interpretation, perception.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I try to surround myself with people that it's not open for like interpretation. I know that those people are sound.
You know their intention.
Yeah, I know they're sound people, and if something has occurred, like it is a slip up or is a, you know.
So through distraction, you're able to stop the overthinking process. But how about the emotions that come with overthinking? Are you able to let go of those as easily, or how does that kind of play through? Tell me more.
I didn't used to be. It used to be like a relentless, cycle. Like even just playing stuff out, I'd feel bad about it, and then I'd feel guilty, and then I'd feel sad because I feel, and you find new emotions. That it's like a tumbleweed. But I'd say now I'm much better, like emotionally regulated to be like, okay, I feel this kind of way. I feel like even the different emotions alternates like the kind of activities I would choose to do. Like if I'm feeling quite sad and quite like sensitive, I'm not going to choose to like,
speak to someone.
Yeah, speak to somebody and kind of keep living it. Like I need to have like more of a calmer, maybe a music or a softer film. Sometimes a familiar film to me, like rather than something new because it's reliably predictable.
You don't want to be disappointed by it. When you're like, come on.
Sometimes and the emotion, I've definitely got better at correlating like the emotion with the activity. Before I found that, I would do something, like if I felt angry, I'd go and do something that almost made the anger worse or made something more personified, and I was like, why am I doing this? Like, this doesn't. I felt like it was more impulsive the reaction to the activity, whereas now I'm like, no, like I feel this, and I vocalize it now. Like I'll say to Nick, like I'm just feeling a little bit like anxious and wobbly, and I know it will pass, but I kind of just need to tell you that, and like, can we just do this for 20 minutes? And she was like, yeah, cool. Well, but she doesn't care.
It helps when people also know why you're seeking to do, because if you're choosing to, let's say, put on headphones or something, again, other people might perceive it in a certain way, but if you express to them why,
they're like, okay, cool. Like,
because people want to care, and they care about other people.
Yeah, communication's a big thing, which I've got an awful lot better at. But again, I think that comes with maturity. It comes with doing it and not having a negative response as well. So it's like the positive reinforcement, like, hey, this is actually, it's not a bad thing to do.
And when you open up to somebody that's important to you about that, most of the time, if you're in a healthy relationship, it's going to be positive feedback that you get back.
Yeah.
Which will motivate you to do that again.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that's really interesting that you do certain activities to get away from certain emotions. I feel like that's very helpful for me when I find myself in that situation again, like where I'm overthinking. I'm definitely going to try experiment with what could work for certain emotions. I think a lot of people would find that helpful as well.
I don't know, it just...
Because I don't know how many people have experimented or built that awareness to know oh, I did this and this made anger feel better, but not necessarily sadness, because they're different and you're going to react differently to them.
I think people run from emotions a lot, myself included, prior to, really feeling like doing a lot of work on that. But like, actually when you lean into it, you really understand more, which is the opposite of what your body naturally wants to do, right? Like, but when you lean into it more, you get more from it, and you work out like the best way forward rather than fighting. Like,
what I found is trying to experience the emotion more actually helps you, because you don't linger in it so long. If you're feeling angry, you just have to embrace that for a little while.
Yeah.
Because if you start seeking other things, all of a sudden it's not the specific thing that made you angry, but it's that thing plus the other things that you're doing now.
Yeah.
Especially if you overthink and you kind of extend the conversation, like you keep playing through and you're like, how dare you say that to me?
Yeah.
But they didn't.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden it's your mind doesn't know that it didn't really happen because it feels so real to you.
Yeah.
So you're carrying that baggage.
Yeah.
That's related to that person or that event or that activity.
You're so internally like self-harming in like, do you know what I mean? In that way where it's like you just repeatedly feel the sting again, like of it, and because you're angry, especially with anger, I think it's one of the ones where you keep repeating, and then you're angry because you've stung yourself.
And then you have like a horrible shower feeling angry, and that other person is like la-di-da-di-di, they're happy there.
Or because when you're angry, or you might be doing something more forcefully, and I don't know, you trap your thumb in the drawer as you put something away, and then you're even more enraged because that's happened to you, and you're already, and it's just been like, okay, just go sit down, remove yourself from.
Like you're angry and you hit something or you kick something and.
Then your foot hurts.
Yeah, my brother and I used to do that a lot with PlayStation remotes and FIFA. Everybody who's played FIFA knows.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the most frustrating games that get you sometimes.
For sure. I mean, Nicola used to play Overcooked when we first started, and I'd actually be like, "Can we stop playing? Like, I'm getting flustered by this." Whereas now, like, we lean into it, and we're like, and we've communicated better. We've worked our ways. Yeah. But like initially, I was like,
Overcooked should be a form of relationship therapy, to be honest.
It really, yeah.
It's in those moments where you see the true colors coming out.
For sure. And you work out like strengths and weaknesses, and like, I don't know, just the teamwork element of completing a task together like brings you together. Like, it's great. But yeah, initially again, just couldn't. It was too much for me. And then like communication, work our way forward. Like, now really enjoy it. Yeah.
Sitting with your feelings is, because people, like we mentioned in the car way here.
Yeah.
Like we mentioned in the car, on the way over here. Hopefully the mic can edit that out. Your feelings need to guide you in some sort of way, and you need to create a space in your day where you can connect with them again. Because, like you said, if you're mindlessly watching TV or scrolling through videos, even if it's motivational or inspirational content, it's still not specifically related to you and how you're feeling. And you need to feed your soul in that way. And you need to learn from what you're feeling so that you don't repeat that again. Yeah, no, absolutely. It just feels like films are great, TV's great, social media is great when it's used in the right ways. Like, all of the things we have to entertain us are fantastic tools, but I feel like it's very easy to get into a cycle of using the same stuff. And like you said, sometimes it's absolutely like not tailored to you, so it's completely impersonal. And even just that feels like a very like, I don't know, faceless, like lack of connections, lack of like, it's just a band-aid. Yeah, it's like putting a band-aid on your Achilles. Yeah, literally. I mean, to the outside world it looks okay, but it's not. Yeah, and just also like the time warp that it can occur with these things. Like, you can be on TikTok for an hour and be like, yes. Oh. And actually, like, don't get me wrong, we all need times where you just shut it out and you're on it and you enjoy it and it's great. But there's times where, I don't know, the laundry's not done and this isn't done, and
even just like, oh, I've actually not spoken to Nick in like a period of time, and even just like checked in, which is fine. Like, it's okay to not talk to your partner for an hour, like, but sometimes when that's a daily occurrence, you kind of feel like really disconnected from I don't know, like a real connection, you know.
Do you think that, because we're aware that there's this disconnecting feeling that can occur if you keep drowning out or stop yourself from getting in touch with yourself, but do you think there's a point where you can get so disconnected that you don't know that you're disconnected?
Yeah, for sure. In a rut. I've experienced it, like, just completely in a rut. And then even trying to do the things that are out of your routine, the rut routine, are more effort, right? So it becomes harder to break the cycle. Like, I used to just come home from work, put the TV on, basically fit in as many programs, maybe about like serial killers or crime, until like I basically went to sleep. Like, and I would do that. Health. And I would do that for like weeks, and then be like, I wonder why I feel so crap. Because also, when I spoke to my therapist, hey therapy, good for you, and she
We're
said,
sponsored by BetterHelp.
and she said that there was a study done that said that if you watched, obviously she watches it too, serial killers is obviously, you know, any crime drama people love. But if you watch violent crime or violent anything that was associated with a level of violence before bed, like at a certain cut-off point, the level of dreams and things like that people had were like far worse, far more kind of deeper or darker, and the quality of sleep people got was worse. And she said that she found it quite an extreme study to read, and was like, oh, I wonder. And she herself like just implemented it. Like, she didn't watch anything beyond maybe 7:38, and watched something calmer from that point onwards until she went to sleep. And she did it and was like, oh, my dreams have been fine. So she had no comparison. And then Peaky Blinders, which is a popular British television show, came on, and it starts at 9 o'clock. So she was obviously going to watch it because there's 6 episodes in the season. You wait like 2 years. She watched it, and from 9 till 10 was an hour show, and went to bed. And every Monday that show was on, or Tuesday, I can't remember, she would have nightmares that night. And she said like she didn't believe it would be as that extreme or that immediate, you know. But she said like there is truth in it, that what you surround yourself in, like whether you perceive it to be going in, it's going in. And if you're only surrounding yourself with this sort of image, like, and things that are a bit more darker and deeper and a bit more violent, like it affects dreams.
Yeah, because those are the things that you perceive, and that's what's going into your mind.
It's the stimulus, right? Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I still love a crime documentary and I love all of this stuff, but I think when you feel in a rut with the routine and how it makes you feel, you almost become immune to how you felt before. That becomes the new normal. So breaking the routine is the hardest part.
Yeah.
Because with anything in a routine, it's like effort, right? Starting the gym is effort. Like, just getting up an hour before you would normally get up is effort, because your routine is safe to you. But actually, it's far more damaging and dangerous when that routine is unhealthy, because you still find it hard to break because it's a routine. But when it's unhealthy, it's like doing more damage whilst you're trying to do it, break the routine. So yeah, once you realise like, oh no, if I just did this for myself and this for myself, it's slow, and it's better to do it slow, because you just won't do any of it.
Small steps.
Yeah.
So how do you get out of it? How did you get out of it? And can you do it alone, I think, is the big question.
I think alone is tough. I can't speak for alone. Myself, I had a lot of help. But I mean, I say a lot of help. The therapist and the way I did therapy was very much like internal reflection. She witnesses it, catalogues it for you, and tells you like, this is what you said and this is what you connected. They allow you to make the connections, right?
She reframes kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, but I had to identify myself like, oh wait, like all this stuff I used to actually just do I don't do anymore. And obviously there's many things that make people's mood worse or better, or change how they feel about things, but I just became very insular and repetitive in the actions that I was doing, and the identification of those actions was like the biggest thing for me, because then I was like, oh, I almost became unaware that I was absolutely doing all of these things and absolutely not doing so many other things. So they identified that, then creating a list of things like, okay, what would be better for me? What's easy to implement? And if it's a cost-effective thing, what's cheap for me to implement or free for me to implement? And when can I do that? And then I guess that's the hardest bit, is starting, but within honestly like a week or two, just from journaling or just from like finding some time to listen to some music before bed and turning the TV off, or going and calling a friend and committing to like a call with a friend once a week rather than weeks on end, just feeling disconnected. And just small things like you get the serotonin, you get the
You get the energy.
yeah, and that's the reinforcement you need, like that's the positive like push you need to be like, oh, you know what, this actually maybe works, like, let's probably keep doing this. So.
It sounds like therapy is just, I don't want to like reduce it to anything, but from what you're describing, for you it was just a tool for you to actually reconnect with yourself, because if you didn't have it, you wouldn't have those moments that we've been speaking about, where you just need to sit and feel and accept and experience.
Yeah, and like my therapist said, like you need to be comfortable being uncomfortable, because I would run from uncomfortability. I'd be like, nope, I'd be off.
Being uncomfortable.
And don't get me wrong, there's times where like no matter how much you do it, like being really, really uncomfortable is never comfortable. But I don't know, there's more. We keep doing something, whatever it is, it gets easier and it's less scary. And that's the same as being uncomfortable. It's not immune to that. It's the same thing. Like you're like, oh, this feels really odd and I don't like it, but I've done it before and like I didn't die. It was fine. Okay. It ended. And we found a way through. And you just, they gave me the tools to. And then you have more confidence in yourself, because she's only highlighting things that you can do.
You do all the work.
Yeah, and or you've done before, and she's just bringing it back to your attention. So it's like, ingenious therapy, like to say like, pay for me to help you use things that you could already use for free, but I need to just redirect you back to these things.
You're taking the words right out of me. I was gonna say that a big secret to like the therapy world and the coaching world, it's not us. It's not the therapist. I mean, you still need to have the skills to hold that space.
Yeah.
But it's all about the person doing the work, coming to therapy, coming to coaching, doing all of that. It is literally all you. You're doing all the work, and like you said, it's almost like, you could do it by yourself, but I think that's the beautiful part about how we're all made, is that we need one another, and we can't do all of that alone. We can't survive and earn money and do all of that and take care of ourselves. All by ourselves. We need other people.
Absolutely. And when you're busy and the world tells you that you can't be selfish, because being selfish in any context is negative, right? That's how the perception seems to be. Actually just having an hour of therapy or whatever the time may be, like, allows that person to be selfish without like the connotations of like, and like, I don't know, even if at the very least it just is reflective, or it's just a quiet period for you to like just be calm and listen to some inspiration, or have somebody just hear you vent. Like, I think there's just like golden time in that hour or whatever that time may be, just for somebody to be like, how are you? Like, not how is work or how is the dog or the family, like how are you? And even just being given that opportunity for many people, I think is like,
it's missing.
Yeah,
it's almost like the therapist is fulfilling a role that you would think your partner or your friends
Mm.
do. But again, I mean, we have a great friendship and we have a great friendship group,
Yes.
but we still do not always do that for each other, where we give each other time and space
Yeah.
to do that, because it's not our job. First of all, it's part of like being a great friend,
Yes.
but we're not being paid to do that at every single moment of every day when we meet each other.
Yeah.
But you need those moments in your life where you can really have a discussion,
Yeah.
where you can reconnect, and you need it to do it alone, and I think you need to do it with other people,
Yeah.
whether
Yeah.
it's your partner, your therapist, or whoever.
Absolutely. And like, I think it's the impartiality that a therapist provides sometimes, that you are not considering the feelings of that person when you offload that information. And for somebody that absolutely does nearly all of the time, it's refreshing to be like, I can say what I need to say here without having to even kind of rephrase it in my head 3 times or think.
To not offend the person.
Yeah, because she's just completely like, not in a mean way, but she's completely like insignificant to my day to day, and she is not going to judge me. Like, her job is to help me. So actually, maybe being the more raw is the best way forward here. Like, and she can collate all of these thoughts for you. Like, yeah.
Some people do have a knack of rephrasing things back to you, or blowing up your perspective in such a simple but profound way so easily.
Yeah.
It's, although we're saying that it's something that we could do by ourselves, it's a skill that some people have that
absolutely
we just don't. Even if you're, I mean, there's a reason coaches get coached and therapists get therapy.
Yeah. Yes.
It's so invaluable. It's priceless.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, as much we were joking, like, absolutely respect the role, and like, I could honestly find that I can, like you said, I see why therapists have therapy, and I see why, like, it's a role that's needed, because it's a natural skill set to be able to like read between the lines, because some people won't give you the clear answers or a clear response. Read body language, like non-verbal cues, and like being able to also like find the right approach for however many different people, because you can say the truth but some people can't hear blunt truth, or like there's and then they have to know all of this by like, you know, very few interactions with people. Like, straight away they start work and they may have had like 20 minutes conversation on the phone with this person to see if they come up with them, and then they're into the first hour and they're like, oh hey, like, so I mean, it's intimate fit. Like, definitely therapists have to be the right person for you, and vice versa. You have to be the right person for them. But I think that we've hit the nail on the head of the toolbox is definitely a really underpinning thing. Like, so many people can help themselves completely, but it's just like redirecting like the circuits and making them aware that like this system exists like within you. You just need to remember the manual and like what buttons you need to press to enact it, and they help you like find that way forward for sure.
That's true. Sometimes even when other people say the same things that you're thinking, it just hits much harder, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It really does. And even just the intonation can be changed. Like, and some things we say off the cuff, and sometimes she'd be like, can I just bring you back to what you just said at the end there, which was just like, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, that makes me really sad that you said that. Like just feel that for a second, and I'd be like, you know,
so sorry.
And and she, you know, sometimes I'll just bring it back as well to like, you've just thrown something out there that actually like you need to reflect on and think about why you maybe have just said that. And like, again, overthinkers shouldn't over-reflect, but I think
are we creating a new brand of people? Over-reflectors?
This hybrid over-reflectors. Yeah, maybe.
This could actually be an ad for therapy as well. I feel like
we're doing it for free. We should definitely try and endorse this.
I'll contact Ben.
But yeah,
post podcast.
Yeah, but we've always been on the same page about how so many people like struggle to find meaning and or be reflective and just And it's hard because people's experiences are different, people's families are different, mindsets, and like people can't afford therapy. You know, it's not a cheap, accessible thing for everybody to have these, even like, you know, few sessions that can change everything, and not that everybody wants it either. But I just think anything you can do to like just try and understand anything you do in life, there's a level that's not obsessive, but is never really negative. Like very, very rarely negative. Like
even people who do try to find meaning in what they do or in life, or find their purpose, while they're putting in their best effort, it still helps to get somebody else's perspective. I mean, last week when Roy came on, you and I both know Roy. He doesn't. I mean, he's funny. He's charismatic.
He's a great guy.
But we both know that he thinks about things. He's not gonna say something like, "Oh, you know, I liked all the movies," or he's gonna give a thoughtful answer.
Yes.
And even he mentioned that he struggles to find meaning in Beijing because of our lives as expats and what we do.
Yeah.
But even somebody as put together as Roy, like we all need somebody else to help us in those times where our own perspective and our own kind of filters and blinders are not allowing us to see.
Yeah,
the
definitely.
Full picture.
And just him having that openness to like, or anybody that openness to even see that gap. Does that make sense? You're already kind of onto a winner. Like
you are. I always tell people that.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the reasons I'm looking at the slide now when we haven't done anything.
But
this is one of the reasons that I started this, because it's so important just to have conversations about these things.
Yeah.
It's very easy for us to keep just talking about work while we're at work and work while we're not at work.
Yeah.
But there needs to be the space where you have a conversation with people. And I'm doing this once a week, and every single time without fail, it's been the most inspirational or energizing part of my week. Besides when we went snowboarding, that was pretty cool. Gun to my head, snowboarding for sure. But it's been so valuable, and it's one of the reasons why I'm trying not for us to use the game so far. I just want to keep picking your brain.
Yeah.
Because it's the conversation that matters.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I think finding a deeper connection with somebody, or finding just a deeper conversation, whether it's not even like exclusive to that person, like it's never something that you're gonna like turn around and be like, oh, that was an hour of a conversation.
What a waste of time. Right?
Yeah.
We spoke about overthinking.
Yeah.
Jeez.
We overthought overthinking.
We did, yeah. We created a new category. Over-reflectors, you know.
But no, I mean, I enjoy obviously time and a place, a deep chat or a chat about anything, but it's just interesting to hear other people's perspectives, or align on stuff or not, but you find out something new regardless. Like,
and when the space is safe, you know, you can disagree and still have a wonderful discussion. And what I like about these conversations so far is that they truly have been unstoppable in the most literal sense of the word, you know, with every single one of the people that I've had on.
Yeah.
It's been a thing of like, geez, what's the time? Oh, it's already been an hour. And we haven't done anything, and we've done nothing, but we've done everything all at the same time.
Yeah.
Which, you know, at the start, I was planning on saying this, but this feels like a good segue. At the start, I have the game because for me it was kind of a reason to convince myself that I can have a podcast.
Yeah.
I was like, it's not, we're just playing a game, you know.
Yeah.
It's not really a podcast. Because I in some way I thought, why should I have a podcast? Like, what makes me podcast host worthy?
Yeah.
But I think that's besides the point, and I enjoy that we haven't used the game now. It's the second time out of 6 episodes where I haven't used the game.
Yeah.
And I find that really good to know and good to feel, because it's the reason I started this. I took some time this week
Yeah.
to think about why did I start Unstoppable Conversations
Mm-hmm.
and why did I want it to continue. And it's when I thought about it, it's for the moments where we actually don't play the game,
Yeah.
but we take a topic and we run with it.
Yeah.
Because in my head, I know all of the things that I've asked here, and I could probably just ask them to you right now without using the game. But it's cool that we haven't used it and that the conversations don't stop.
Yeah, I guess from what I'm interpreting, it's like the game is the safety blanket, right?
Yeah.
But actually, I guess you've gaining confidence just in the 6 times you've done this, and realizing that like just the conversation alone that you can provide or like create with questions or just your demeanor like is enough to fill.
Yeah.
Is worthy enough to have a podcast like or a
is,
slot or because like we've both said like so many people have something to say and like who is one person to invalidate like. Exactly. Or somebody just wishes to like discuss. Like, if one person's like, a couple of losers, like, well,
it's alright. Because
I enjoyed it.
Yes, we benefit, and I would like people to benefit, of course, but it's not the primary reason I'm doing it. I think I'd like people to benefit more from seeing this and wondering, what if I tried to have a conversation like this in my life?
Yeah.
When was the last time somebody asked you to describe yourself? Or asked you who you were?
I honestly, it's definitely happened, I'm sure, but I can't remember when.
Yeah.
Maybe a university application or...
Yeah.
Even then, I'm not sure.
But
so
even that's an impersonal setting. You're doing it so that you could get something else. This is purely, for conversation.
Yeah, and it took me a while. Like I'm sure you sent me the message to ask, and there was a while delay because I was like, "What? If I can only pick 5, what are the 5 that underpin?"
Yeah, and I mean, it's not to like reduce you to anything.
Yeah.
But it's when you think about it, what are the parts of you that matter to you enough that you would choose those words? And I enjoy and I'm embracing the fact that we're just 2 ordinary people, and everybody who's been on here, no disservice to anybody, but we are all ordinary people. It's not like this is not the diary of the CEO, which I love.
Yeah.
And you need to learn from successful people.
Of course.
But I want to know what ordinary people think.
Yeah.
Because I am one.
Yeah.
And there is for me, there's a lack of information out there from where people start to where they end up being like Stephen Bartlett or Simon Sinek or I don't know, American NFL players.
No, absolutely. We're always seeing not the end product because nobody's an end product, but we're seeing a pretty like built up product, right? And they can discuss how it maybe used to feel, but like you're still looking at this person like, they got all this.
Yeah. It's like once I made my first million, this was easy. And again, like people worked hard for that, and I'm not taking anything away from that. It's nice to know that we are all successful in some way, but we're not yet the hyper successful people that we all get our information from.
Absolutely, and it is like that's where it comes. It has allowed people to maybe like sometimes live a lifestyle that isn't authentically theirs, like see things on social media and be like, oh, I want this, I want that, like materialistic and actually it's just coming from this like input of information that is like, for most people is unrealistic. And for most people are going to become millionaires. No, they're never going to be a millionaire. And that's okay. Like it's finding the comfort in the ordinary, and like actually like a lot of people connect. Like the most popular celebrities, if you're going to call it that, are the people that people can like really connect with on a level that like feel normal to them. Like Adele. People like see her smoking or like cackling or cracking a joke or just being like unfiltered in her responses, find comfort in that because they're like, hey. And
there's
like,
some human part you can connect
absolutely, and like those more humanistic or certainly seem to be like that way, like are the most popular because like the common man or woman is like, or person, whoever, like is just like they resonate with that person more. So it's great that we have like people of inspiration, people who have achieved a lot, but actually for a lot of us, like in that higher sense, they're never going to be that person. So actually, where's the inspiration for your average, Joe?
Yeah, I like this podcast to blow up and become very successful. But it's not the main intention, first of all. And I do enjoy hearing thoughts that are unformed. Like what we hear normally, what we read in books and we hear on podcasts are years and years of well thought out. They've written the thing like 100 times and they've reworded and rephrased it. I enjoy hearing the unpolished version of what people think or are answering to life's important questions.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, well, number one, I steal from their ideas. I like to take what people are thinking and incorporate it into my own perspective. But it's just important to have an unpolished view of something.
100%. And I may hear some of this back and be like, God, doesn't she waffle? And I know I do. So like,
You don't.
But I agree. Like you're getting a much more like authentic response from somebody that they can't practice or overthink. So I agree. It's a much more wholesome product. Like it's the authenticity of it is much higher. I feel for that part.
I enjoy it as well, and I'm getting different responses to the same question, which is really, really cool. One of the questions I have is, what does success look like for you? And I'm gonna ask you that in a second. I'll give you some time, but a few people have said completely different things, and you know what's incredible about that is that they all make sense. And what I enjoy is that it's not coming from somebody where if they were to say something, you'd think that has to be the absolute truth. Because some people have built reputations and skills and expertise in an area where by them saying something, you assume it's true. Which is again like something that we need, If Jordan Peterson says something, I'll be like, damn dude, that's definitely true because I know, credit to him, he's researched things, he's built his life around that.
Yeah.
But it's also great to know that his answer can be right. And my answer can be right, and your answer can be right.
Yeah.
And they can be different as well.
Yeah.
There is uniqueness to all of us, and we need to embrace that.
Absolutely.
It comes through in the responses to questions. So, what does success look like for you?
Well, I'm going to ask you answer. Success to me is, the main success would be for like myself, family, and like loved ones to be happy and healthy. Like, because I can have all of these things that, you might feel are success, like have a fantastic job, have, fair bit of money in the bank, the house, the materialistic stuff. But if I don't have people around me to enjoy it with, or to support me in the endeavours, or to support them and have these connections, like it for me is meaningless. Like I would give all of that up to live paycheck to paycheck, to be surrounded by these people, right? So that's but if I have all of that, the other version of success is to like feel like I'm the best version of myself, like going through all of that, like giving the best of me to my job, or giving the best of me to my partner or my kids, or just feeling like might not get it right all the time, but I'm giving everything a fair crack, like a fair shot and a go at it, and doing what I need to do to like make sure that I can keep doing that. And that's like success to me, because honestly you can have all of these things, and I honestly believe you can be a miserable person, like and it just becomes this void that you just fill. And I don't ever want to become that person that like takes things for granted, or takes people like, or material, whatever it is, for granted. I just don't want that. So success for me is to have a job that allows me to do cover the minimum, and anything else is like a luxury, and to be surrounded by people that like care for me and I care for them.
Yeah.
Because regardless of what life throws at you, which you're not gonna have a say so on a lot of it, like if you're surrounded by those people, then you're gonna probably make it through and you'll be alright. So you'd love to say like, let's have a Range Rover, you know, like nice 4-bed house, like bit of land.
Yeah.
And these are all like whimsical things that like that would be successful, to own real estate, to own things that cost money and time and effort for you to get, and that is successful. But like honestly, all of it is meaningless if I wouldn't have like a happy, healthy family around me.
So success is more of a who than
success is happiness to me. Yeah. Like happiness is success, should I say it that way? Like and I think too many people put like success being their happiness rather than like actually like there's a measurable thing, right? In many different degrees, which are all respectable and all. But like, yeah, honestly, happiness is success to me.
Was there ever a point in your life where happiness wasn't the measure of your success?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I'd say probably majority of my life it was very much like I need to get this degree, and you know, like if I'm not in the real estate market by this age, you know, failed somehow and get this and get that, and all on materialistic stuff which can go in the blink of an eye. Like your car can be stolen, you know, like your house can be robbed, or you know the interest rates change horrifically, that your mortgage is, you know, insufferable. Like there's so many like elements. There's so many elements to all of that, and like that definitely was the motivation, which is a wonderful motivation. Like I do not knock people that want to have those things and that security in their life, right? And of course I wish for that, like some of those things myself, but like once I took the power away from like the expectations that I only put on myself, I was like, actually, like that doesn't really make me happy. Like being able to go for a meal with friends and not have to worry about the bill because it's not a major bill, like makes me happier. Like hearing that my family are well and good, like in England, and having a phone call and a connection with them over the phone makes me happy. Like I don't have a car here, like, and before I was always thinking like, oh, can I upgrade my car? Like, can I get a better car? Like, all of this stuff, and it's like a constant state of leveling up whatever you have, like. And it's nice to have those goals and level up stuff that needs leveling up, but I think coming here actually has been a really big part of like being like, well, I've survived without those things, I don't need them, and like actually having this and this makes me happier.
Yeah, you came here with just a suitcase or two.
Just a 25 kg suitcase.
Overweight.
Yeah. Which like was nothing with shoes and toiletries, but actually like has been the best thing to just reevaluate completely. Like, okay, I don't have that, I only need this for the flat, and I only need this to get through the working week, and like I don't know, a less complex life for me I've worked out makes me happier. The less complexity the better, and there's times where it's unavoidable complexity, and I understand that, but it was working out what was avoidable and what was like just actually put on by myself, not anything else.
It seems like success is a thing that always changes, and the way that people see success changes because you go through different phases and seasons of your life.
Yes.
Where some things are more important to you than others, and that could be like biologically driven. You know, as teenagers, we want to fit in, we want to be part of the crowd. So like, that kind of reputation is success. But probably with maturity and the experiences that you go through, your definition kind of needs to change, I'd say. Yeah,
and I'm sure it may change again. I don't think that under the current will change of the happiness element, but there may be some things that shift and change. I'm sure there will be, but it's maybe just being open into the awakenings along the way, like being like, okay, maybe that's different now. Like, you know, if you have kids, you're like, okay, my own happiness isn't as it's important, but it's not number one to me. My children's happiness becomes that. Like, And you can't know that that's for sure until you are there and you feel it, right? But you kind of can predict probably that will be the case. But it's also realising too, like, too many parents put their child's happiness as the only source, and that leaves them strung out because kids leave the house, right? Like,
yeah, there's got to be a balance.
Yeah, you come back to yourself eventually, even if it's slightly. But like, yeah, I think that I'd like it to stay that the undercurrent is happiness, like, because once I've realised like how important that was, you kind of think it is, and you're like, why would you forget that? But you do forget that, like, that core principle is something that people just shouldn't miss out on, or remember to remind themselves, like,
because you get disconnected.
Yeah.
Is there like a specific moment that you could think of now where you felt that happiness that would perfectly describe the feeling of success, like if you just lived that moment?
That's really hard. I think there's several. There's moments from being like a kid, surrounded by like the extended family, like grandparents, and being like, wow, like at Christmas time or a meal, like where you're like, wow, this is like, I feel pretty lucky right now. Even as a kid, you understand if you got something good, you know?
Yeah.
And then there's times like recently where like even just being here with Nicola and being like, you know, aren't we lucky? Like, we just paid to go to Indonesia in like September, October, and we're like, you know, are we lucky to be here? Like,
is my wallet even emptier?
Yeah, but like, just like, aren't we lucky to be able to even this be an option and to enjoy this experience together? And then like being at home with family and like, even in really bad times, but just being like, felt like comforted or held, or like knowing that if you really like slipped that they would catch you, like that for me is like feeling like looking around and being like, oh yeah, like this, even though I'm feeling flat, like I feel happy that like this is my reality. Like, I think I've definitely, even from you asking me that question, I can like see more examples of that. Does that make sense? Yeah.
When I asked it to you, I thought of dust storm. It's one of the happiest, I think, memories that I have of our friendship. We've been playing like games nights and things, but specifically me and you.
Yes. Overindulgence.
If I were to tell my kids about Caroline Newby one day, I definitely use the dust storm example.
Yeah.
And especially the part of the fruit. we're just eating the fruit, you know.
Oh.
It's because it's like you say, it's a successful moment in that it's a happy moment.
Yeah.
And that when you look back on it, you have a great feeling inside of you.
Yeah.
You feel warm, you feel at peace, you feel like that was what you were meant to experience.
Yeah, that's for me why like happiness is success, because if you actually think about it, like nobody goes and decides, generally, nobody goes and decides to do something that's like, I'm going to go do that because it makes me feel like crap. Yeah. You're going to decide to do something because you're like, oh, yeah, I'll enjoy that. Like, it will make me happy. You don't think about, will it make me happy? But you don't necessarily do something to be like, I'm going to do that because it's going to make me feel really awful about myself and like that. And people obviously do have those responses and do those things, but like generally, people decide to go get a coffee because you're like, oh yeah, that'd be nice. Like,
even if you're chasing materialistic things, you want to be rich, let's say, because riches will bring you happiness.
Exactly. It's like the indirect thing that you chase, and even if you don't label it, like.
Yeah, the intention. I think it's like the intention is there, but it's just a bit deeper than what you realize.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm gonna flip the script a bit here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to a different kind of question. What do you think is the biggest problem in the world right now?
Ooh.
I'm really gonna challenge you, and I am going to reach for my notepad for this.
Okay. The biggest problem in the world right now.
I'm making you some enemies. Whoever's listening. What's the biggest problem in the world right now?
I mean, it's hard to say, isn't it? Like, the biggest. There are several big problems, and I'm sure there always will be, really. The biggest problem in the world right now. I can't speak for different generations, but my fear for our generation and, you know, generations to come, like from our generation onwards, and I mean there's several, but I feel like it links back to the thing of like the disconnection. Like I worry about like the over complexity of life and how we're perceiving it to be this really complex network of things that we need to survive or need to thrive or just need because somebody on TikTok said we needed it. And it's not just down to social media. Like I just think society has become more complex, and that's like drawing people further from like being authentic or being like just into themselves and being like, what do I need? Like think, you know, this tells me this and this tells me that I need that, but like what do I actually need? And I just worry about like how complex we perceive the route to happiness or the route to like fulfillment seems to be. It's like, oh, you used to be able to get a degree, but now you need a master's. Will it be a PhD in 10 years time? Like, and actually what does it achieve? It doesn't achieve you a higher salary, it just achieves you the same as it did 50 years ago. So it's like, how far have we got to go with?
So do you think we've created more complexity?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's become this like beast, this monster that people fuel, and life understandably with development of technology and development of mindsets and just people and like how we've evolved like as a race of people, like naturally is going to become more complex or perceived be that way, but like it's just not forgetting like the simple roots, the simple things, like the interpersonal connections that you can have with a random stranger like on a street corner and be like,
like, it's interesting because I think the intention of all of this, meaning technology, globalization, all those fancy words, was simplicity and ease.
Yes.
But from what you're saying, and I absolutely agree with you, is that it's actually doing the opposite.
Yeah, and I think it's like the underpinning problem with like it affects global warming, it affects the planet, like it affects these, like that's a huge thing of where we're going wrong. But like that is not the underpinning reason, but that's one underpinning reason as to why those things have got worse, because people are just constantly moving forward and like they're just not like even thinking like, how is this affecting wider things? And it's wonderful to make a world more complex with more different endeavours for this like full spectrum of people that we have in the world. But like it's just, it feels like instead of these new things coming in and it ironing out the knots, it feels like more threads are just thrown in and then knotting and knotting and knotting. It doesn't feel like a plait to me. It feels like a drawer of cables that you've just thrown in and you're like...
It's no longer kind of building on what's come before, it's kind of just adding another thing to choose from, basically.
Yeah, and it just feels like quite vomited, like it feels like
how quickly the COVID vaccine is made available.
And I just like, it's just sad like how people like feels like we develop all these things and these things, but it feels like the revert in society happens at double the rate that the progress does. Like people revert, and like people reverted with like xenophobia during COVID massively, like in any country, and they were like, oh, and and then like they lost, like became like selfish, even like food shop buying, like in the UK, like people were ransacking the shops, and you're like, it's just, I don't know, the raw like humanistic like greed that came out, like, but if I'm not okay, like, what if I'm not okay? And it just like, I don't know, I see that almost society is making people choose that single stream rather than like more of a united, like, think it's okay to be in your own stream, your own lane, but like, it's just not forgetting there's other people around you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Over complexity creates more choice. And there have been studies where there's like a limit, you know. Having only one thing to choose from, people don't necessarily enjoy. They enjoy spread, but there's probably a point where it's too much choice. And it's creating just confusion, and in a way, people, similar to when you're overthinking, you take that confusion and you put it on yourself, and you start to create all these feelings that that you yourself escalate.
Yeah.
And it's created a society where people do feel disconnected.
Yeah, and like even now I'm like, is this really the biggest problem in the world?
So what would be your second shot?
Honestly. The planet, save the planet, please. But
the overcomplexity
yeah.
of the overcomplexity of the world has led you to overthink your
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Doesn't that reinforce
just
the point
sums me up, to be honest.
And it reinforces that overcomplexity is the problem.
100%. Because if you like strip it back to like our grandparents' generation, they were like, my granddad worked in a cable factory, like double shifts, and they brought in minimal, pay. They barely covered everything, but they did. But my grandma said to my dad, like, you will always be clean, you will always be fed, and you will always be loved. And they were the only 3 things that he actually like needed to exist. And actually like the relationship he had with his parents and the relationship I had with them and like how they were as a family, like they were happy, like really happy. And like realistically in today's society they had nothing. Like, my granddad like literally had a pushback and he didn't get a car until like the late 80s, early 90s. Worked most of his, like he was retired by then and like got a car.
But houses were cheaper back then.
They were, and everything was cheaper, but they still lived, paycheck to paycheck. And my grandma was like meticulous with it and like saving small little things here or there. But like, honestly, like those 3 things that she said, like are the only things you really, really need to be happy, and anything else is like a bonus. And I think the complexity is making people entitled, and you absolutely should have all of these extra things if you work for them and want them. Like, but I think we're just forgetting like the core things that we need, like as human beings, and like we're just forgetting that. So
even more difficult is how do we solve the biggest problem in the world?
Goodness me.
Do we just... Here's what I've wondered sometimes. Please correct me if my economics is wrong on this.
Shoot.
But right now we all have a certain amount of money, like our income is at a certain level. Okay. But everything costs, everything is expensive.
Yeah.
What if we agree that tomorrow every single thing in the world that costs money is just half as expensive?
Yeah.
But where is the flaw in that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's true.
What if we agree that every single thing in that supermarket right there is like half the price?
Yeah. It sometimes feels though, doesn't it, like the things are just, why are they negotiated? Like, why is that price that price? Why is this the price of that? Like, if everybody just agrees to knock it all down, we'll still make the same percentage profit margins, right? The percentage will be the same, but it's just the total. Does that make sense?
It's the relative. The problem is not the amount; it's the relative income that we're getting to.
Yeah, but the problem is no one wants to make a move on like. It's easier to just slowly build these like things than to like actually be like, this is ridiculous and this has got like really way out of control. We need to just. But then it's taking one person to take the hit potentially because others won't adjust theirs, and nobody wants to be that guy. So they're like, oh no. But if I reduce mine, but the wholesaler still wants this, then I'm not going to make this, and then like it's reliant too much on like everybody else being like a moral citizen. Does that make sense? And some people like money makes the world go round. And,
it does,
but it's a good question.
I'm just wondering, like you mentioned, there's no one problem that if it's solved, will solve everything. And it's interesting because when you said disconnection over complexity, I was wondering why not hunger? Or poverty, or but I feel like that's a problem that we could have solved already.
Absolutely.
Because we do have the resources. I think it's a problem that's been chosen to still exist.
I absolutely agree. Because at the end of the day, certain charities are businesses, right? So if there's still a need for their charity, there's still a need for their business. and there is absolutely enough food, enough medical resources, there's enough money in the world to eradicate malaria, let's say. Like, you know, mosquitoes can still carry malaria, but if everybody's vaccinated against it from birth, then it's like literally, it's this thing in the sky that you never see and you're never exposed to, so it just doesn't matter. But these things, I feel like, almost have to be a thing. And it sometimes feels like as well, like, to keep whatever people want to be like an equilibrium, like, does it for some people who are like, I don't know, wealthy world leaders, like, does it help keep the equilibrium of their books if a certain amount of people don't make it to like pension age? Does it help like keep the, I don't know, population cap of the world at like just something to steady it because it's exponential?
Yes.
But either way, that's immoral, right? And like, it should be somebody's choice to like, you know, but when the choice that seems seemingly taken away from certain people to be able to just feed the kid, like that's not a choice, because no parent would choose that, right? But there's definitely enough money in the world to solve hunger and major poverty. Like,
most places who have a population that's hungry actually grow the foods and the crops that we distribute to countries all over the world. Like, our coffee comes from Africa and, you know, those places like on the equator, which are some of the poorest places in the world.
Like, Africa's resources alone is the wealthiest continent.
But it's the poorest.
Because the wealth is extorted elsewhere. Like, but they have said, like, there's been a business model where they've said, economists have said that if Africa is able to do X, Y, Z in individual nations, like, by 2050 it could be the highest, like, economic, like, have the highest economic growth in the world because it has exponential resources. Like, it has all of these things. It's just getting the start, and some countries already have, like, but it's, if you do feel like, I don't know, something in the world, the equilibrium, like, feels like the need to keep certain people at the bottom of this, like, pack, at the bottom of the pyramid. Not that there should even be a pyramid. Like, everybody exists and is alive and is like matters, but it seemingly is like, is that better to keep that down there? Because it's absolutely, is money wise, can solve that.
Yes.
Just the money that like a billionaire has can solve, if they invest it, can solve the problem of malaria in Africa indefinitely for the next 20 years. Like,
I agree.
With other people that help 40 years. Like,
and at the root of it, it seems simple.
For sure.
But it's complex.
It is.
So this sounds very doomsday. For you, where is the hope? Where can people find hope? For you and specifically and for other people?
The hope is that I'd see certainly like the new generation are much more woke to the like injustices to the, because everything, I mean, the perks of social media, right? There's more exposure of world news, not just national news. And things are more reported and more like value. It's all good. Things are more reported and more like investigated, and like even TikTok people can release a statement like, this just happened to me here, and like they are more woke because of that exposure. So I think there is more like of a liberal mindset that comes with that, and like, you know, you even look at just their exposure, like they're now experiencing like global warming. When we were younger, it was very much like, oh, this will start to happen, but we were still in the swing where it wasn't quite. Now we're like actively seeing it, right? And the kids are actively seeing it, so I have hope for that. Certain kids will grow up and be like, oh, I'm gonna produce like an alternative product for plastic, like properly, or I'm gonna use the plastic that we do use non-negotiably and like create like things that are therefore used for good. Like, I just feel like that woke mindset will like lead the way forward, but the problem is it's letting those voices come through, because in every generation we've believed that age is like wisdom, which it absolutely can be, but there is gonna be a Greta Thunberg that's gonna be you need to have the light and the voice, because no one person of any age should tell you like that's how it should be, because you need a rounded voice. So you need a 10-year-old, you need 15-year-old, like you need a 35-year-old, you need somebody from every age bracket with their own exposure and experience to voice it. And like, honestly, believe at least with the newer generation, like they are woke, like they won't be told that something's not happening when it's blatant. And I just hope that they, like, with a magnifying glass, they can just see the theme of like where humanity's gone wrong and be like, okay, you know, commercialism's pretty bad for the planet, like let's maybe try and just, you know, slow down that curve a little. When they can see it all from post-war, they can see they've got a full spectrum of study now. And then we've done all of this building in society, and actually they've said that our generation, mine and yours, is going to be the first generation that are worse off than their parents.
Wow.
And before that, it was exponentially like there is improvement, there is growth.
So perhaps we need to go back to go forward.
Yeah, and they can see all of that, like read it like a book.
That's how all graphs normally tend, you know.
Yes.
It's not a simple going up kind of thing. There needs to be a pullback at some point.
Yeah, and I feel like we're gonna hit it.
Yeah.
I feel like we're faltering. Like,
in trading, they call it like resistance. So when a stock or cryptocurrency goes up, then it pulls back, and there's like a level of resistance, they say. So it's like a standard where in the past it's consistently like not gone below this point.
yes.
And probably, I'm just thinking of this like out loud now from what you're saying, it seems like we need to find our societal level of resistance, the lowest minimum that we're allowed to accept, and then we need to grow from there.
Yeah, but I feel like it has to hit a point where people are unhappy and disgruntled, and it's blatantly obvious to, do you know what I mean? The younger generation, they'll like probably laughing at some of the stuff that like our parents or our we don't like, really? Just couldn't see that 2 + 2 = 4. Do you know what I mean? So in that sense, yeah, we've been like the case study for them to be like, goodness me, like this is how we need to rewrite the story. And obviously that makes it sound so simple that it can just be done. But I believe that like the younger generation, like I sound really old saying that, but the generation I'm seeing come through schools, certainly the British primary schools I've worked in like 10-year-olds, I'm like, wow, like they are already like way more woke to things that I had no concept of until 16 years old.
Yeah. Sometimes good, sometimes bad.
Exactly. But the way ahead of the game, like way ahead.
Yeah. I think we should start close. It's been an hour and 40 minutes.
Goodness me. It's not like us, Andre.
Hey,
it's not like us.
It's definitely not. But it's been an unstoppable conversation.
Yeah,
again, yeah. Because I've got a lot of questions right now. I'd like to keep exploring this, but we'll keep it for round 2.
Okay, absolutely.
I just before we kind of close off, I want to know, is there anything that's been on your mind lately that you'd like to share with me or share with others? I would like to write that down as well.
I'm trying to think.
Just, let's bring it to the forefront.
My forefront has definitely been, always is with the new year. I'm always like, where can I go from here? The forefront has been like, how can I like continue some of the themes like of like self-preservation and like just trying to like, what is the most simple formula for like me to like keep doing daily or weekly or monthly to like have the best year or the best chance at the best year possible. And I feel like I already have had a fantastic year that's just gone, but like there's definitely things as any year, but that's been at the forefront of my mind certainly recently, like journaling and different things like that, just being like, okay, what's the best simplest formula for me to like do the things that I feel I need to do this year.
Yeah. And luckily for you, we're in China, so we get 2 New Years to attend that.
Absolutely. Year of the Dragon too.
That's pretty cool, yeah.
It's a good thing.
It seems like if something good were to happen, it would be Year of the Dragon and not not the rat or the mouse. Or,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's the I always have a good feeling with the new year,
yeah.
but not being. I'm trying not to be passive. I'm trying to be very active in like steering life, or like trying to just do what I can to keep on course. You know?
It sounds like you're elevating the concept of like New Year's resolutions to not be goals specifically, because people do New Year's resolutions like goals, but it sounds like you're doing what's the innate thing that I need to do.
Yeah.
Not something external, but internal that's going to keep me going.
Very much so. Yeah, and having patience to do it, because I get impatient. This has taught me patience all over again.
Yeah. She is pointing to her foot, by the way, which is injured.
It
her
is.
Achilles.
I'm in the boot. But I thought I learned patience the first time, but it's been redefined the second time because I did not think this would happen again. Yes. So, it's letting go of like that element and being like, okay, what can I control and what can I do? And if I do those things and the things still don't work out, then like at least I tried. Like, which I feel like even when sometimes perceivably rubbish things happen, if you feel like you've tried to not create that, you're like, well, okay, you can accept it a little bit more because it's more freak, right? But if you did nothing, you're more angry and upset that it happened because you kind of think, well,
it's your fault.
I didn't really do enough, or I didn't even see this coming, you know. So at least we can say that, regardless of what happens, that we tried.
So, who would you like to invite to join me on this podcast? Can be anybody. Like I said, ordinary people are welcome. No offense to everybody. If you don't want to say the person's name out loud now, that's also okay. If you want to invite more than one person.
So are we going for ordinary, or are we going for like?
We're going for anybody you think would enjoy this.
Ooh.
Because I think it's kind of become. It's my tradition to ask a person who they'd like to invite. Because I want to connect with different people.
I think definitely Alicia. Alicia's a very interesting person.
She's going to come on anyway.
She's a very interesting person.
I'm excited for that one.
And she's a very open person, like even with a difference of opinion, she's happy to hear it, kind of thing.
Yeah. Could be somebody back home as well. It doesn't have to be China based.
That's a really good question.
Okay, I'll let you have a think about it.
Yeah.
I'll ask you afterwards.
Thank you.
But so, what would you like to ask the next person or that person who comes onto this conversation?
Ooh, I think the success question is really good. And I remember you saying that you have asked everybody that, but I think that's a great thing to continue. Because like you said, it could take many different shapes.
Yeah, it might become one of the unplanned traditions, I think.
I also think the biggest problem in the world, that's a really good question that you've already asked, but I would also ask like how would you feel this is really tricky.
Say a rough draft and we can workshop it.
Oh, I feel like I lost my train of thought.
Is it a more personal question?
Yeah, maybe more personal, like more in depth, and not like too deep, but like maybe just being like, if like bringing it back to when we said about happiness and okay, so if that source of happiness was like unattainable for you, or like I'm telling you now, like say that happened, like that level of success is like not going to be a level of measure for you, like what is a backup, like constant in your life, like what will be something that would ground you, or what would be something that would keep you on the level.
That is quite a tough question to word.
Yeah, I don't know how to word it. I feel like I'm not quite hitting the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Maybe like
perhaps a simpler version.
If the worst thing happened, or like that you can perceive to be the worst thing happened, like what would be your immediate next steps? Like what would be something that you would try to do?
Oh, that's
to immediately remedy. I'm really struggling to underpin what I mean.
Yeah.
Like,
what's the worst thing that could happen to you, and how would you move forward from there?
Yeah, because we've spoken about success, right, and like the things we wish we could have, or the positives. I guess it's like the negatives, like.
Because what I'm thinking is, how would you feel if success is unattainable? That seems. It doesn't seem like it's quite hitting what you.
No, I feel like I'm still. I'm nearer, right? I'm closer, but I. Maybe I'm just.
We can keep workshopping it.
Maybe I'm just.
Because I don't want people to be, discouraged.
Just be like, oh, you get really grilled.
What's the worst thing that could happen to you right now?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it's definitely the right move, like light-hearted, like more open. But I think maybe a question that is a bit more like, ooh.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand what you mean.
And it could be anything, and you can change it according to like what the person's giving because you're making notes. But I think like a question that is like, you don't want people to break down, but like just is a little bit more of a.
You want me to bamboozle people?
Yeah. Just. Yeah, and get like another raw state of like response.
I get that, The biggest problem in the world question does kind of hit a lot of those boxes.
Yeah.
Because it's not a PC question, it's not politically correct in some way. But I intend with these conversations, I don't want to offend anybody, of course not. But I do want to speak the truth.
Yeah.
Because we should be open. We should be open about what the biggest problem is if we intend to solve it.
Yeah.
If we don't intend to solve it, that's fine. We can lie about it.
Yeah.
I like that. You want me to throw people off their game and. Yeah.
Yeah, just like a question that is like a little bit more like not negative because no emotion is negative, right? But is maybe not one they expected to have to consider, like because especially the note of the all, it's kind of like happy and like it's calm and it's safe.
Yeah.
But maybe that makes somebody feel a bit more like, ooh, really,
them,
what would I do, or
what makes you angry?
Yeah. Like, or what makes you sad, like.
Yeah.
And again, it's not negative emotions; it's just maybe not the emotion they expected to discuss
or to build on the worst thing kind of thing, what's the worst thing that happened to you recently or last year or something?
Yeah.
Because we're also going into the new year, like you said, depending on if you're Chinese or rest of the world.
Yeah. No, definitely.
I like that. Most of my questions, I do intend to evoke some sort of feeling, not of discomfort, but I want people to have not thought about this answer before.
Yeah.
And most ordinary people have not thought about most of the most difficult questions.
No.
Successful people, people who've done like hundreds of interviews and things, they've had time.
Yeah.
Like I said, I enjoy the unpolished version.
Absolutely. Like, can I rail off like several problems with the world? Absolutely. But can I like underpin the biggest one? And like I said, even now, like, really? Is that? Probably not, because it's a subjective question, right?
It is, yeah.
But, I mean, collectively, the amount of people you ask, we probably have a good crack at finding quite a few big problems.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if I heard somebody else's answer, I'd be like, yeah.
Do you want to know the previous person's answer?
Why not?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, before I tell you, one thing that I think is gonna happen once I've done like a lot of episodes of this podcast is I think I'm going to be driven to collate all of the answers that are specific to a question into some or other digestible form. Yeah. For example, if I ask everybody what success means to them, I think it could turn into a really helpful resource.
Absolutely.
Just being, helping somebody who's thinking about that question either specifically or like they're thinking about other things, but it comes down to success.
Yes.
If I could have, these are what other people have said. What do you resonate with?
Yeah.
I think that's going to happen. I'm not,
Or even just acknowledging other perspectives. It's gonna be like,
I think it would be great to look back, after a year and be like, this is what people say the biggest problem in the world is.
yeah.
What can we do about it? This is what. So the previous person
Yeah.
said, I don't remember everything, but I don't want to kill what they said.
Yes.
But their answer came down to kind of sugar and diet. What they said is that the food that we eat is really processed and so unhealthy, and we're so out of touch with what we're putting into our bodies,
Yeah.
specifically sugar-based products, that it's causing us to kind of think and tend towards ways that we normally wouldn't.
Yeah.
It's not, you can't really jump and say vegetables make you logical,
Yeah.
but you can say that if you keep putting unhealthy things in your body, there is a level of disequilibrium in your body,
Yeah.
which leads to disequilibrium in your thoughts and your feelings, which leads to disequilibrium
Oh,
in your
for
actions.
sure.
So their answer was
That's really interesting.
totally different view to yours.
Yeah.
But again, I love and I completely agree with both of them. Because
Mm.
there isn't probably one biggest problem in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest problem is that there's several big issues.
Maybe somebody will say that one day.
Hey, let me know.
But that would be cheating.
yeah.
You've got to give an answer. Yeah. Well, I think that's everything that I wanted to ask. So all that's left to say is thank you.